talking about a plan to make $4,000 on 20K, right? And it'll be some shorter duration trades. So am I saying that that's the way to go? No, I'm just doing a session on it, right? I mean, I've always talked about having the majority of your trades. You know, I always talk about putting 70 to 80% of your trades in 30 to 60 day duration, or 30 to 70 day if you want to go that far. So I've always talked about that. But I think sometimes we fail to look at the fact that if you're doing 60 or 70 day trades, it's going to take a lot more capital to make $4 grand a month than if you did 20, if you did shorter term trades, right? And I look at it as almost like a 5-to-1 ratio. You know, here I'm going to talk about a plan to make $4,000 a month on 20K capital versus, you know, most people who are doing very far out duration. Some could do better, depends on, you know, the ability of the trader, but you're going to get, as you start getting into 50, 60, 70 day stuff, you're to make $4 grand, you know, at least what I've observed, about $100 grand. And $100 grand, if you're doing farther out durations, if you're trying to make $4 grand, someone said to me, hey, Dan, you know, I've got about $100 grand, is about $4 grand a month reasonable if I'm, you know, if I do a good job on it and everything works out? Yeah, that would be a reasonable plan. On $100 grand, that'd be 4% a month. But as you get longer durations, right, I think that's about normal, right? Longer. You may, it depends on the strategy. It depends on how you're doing it. But I think that's about reasonable. Well, what I'm going to look at is some shorter duration stuff here that I don't think it's unreasonable for 4K a month on 20. Now, it's important to know the pluses and the minuses of everything. Are 50, 60, 70 day trades, is that what you should be doing? Are those the best trades? No, they're not the best trades, right? You know, there's pluses and minuses of those. That's what I'm just presenting today, just to talk about that concept. And I think it's a good discussion. What I'm really trying to point out is the fact that there is, you know, you're putting up a lot more capital when you start going way, way out in expirations for most people. All right. So let's look at this. So the plan for $4,000 a month, I have an SPX Butterfly, right? So again, we're talking about 20K. Now, are these the 3 key strategies that I should be doing? Not necessarily. You could substitute a put credit spread, or you could substitute an out of the money butterfly, or you could substitute a cash secured put for one of these 3, or you could do 2 versus the 3. I'm simply trying to paint a picture of what this would look like. Okay, so SPX Butterfly, again, we're looking at about 20 grand, $11,400 for the trade. Now, in this example, I didn't leave, I don't think I left 9. On 20 grand, I was using most of the 20 grand. In reality, I might put a couple $1,000 in cash, right? But I use most of the 20. But on the other hand, if I'm doing shorter term trades, I'm not really adjusting much. So I'm not using that much capital. So you could go either way. But so here's an example, SPX Butterfly, $11,400 trade. I think this was a typo. But I'm looking to make 5% on the 11,400 or 570. Now, this you'll see, this is kind of stretching a little bit in terms of I didn't go like 8 or 9 day trades or 4 days for this one, but a lot of times I would. Here I used a 25 day trade. That's the farthest duration I was. I might even go 20, but I used a 25 day duration in this example. It's basically a mango 40-35 type trade and put it on every Tuesday. Again, keep a schedule, 8 contracts. Now, I'm making the assumption that I can get out of this trade every week to put a new one on. There might, because this is a little longer duration, I would normally go for short-term trades. but I'm making the assumption in most cases that I can get out in 6 to 9 days. Okay, now, if I'm not, I may have to go to 20 days, but that's the assumption. It might be stretching it. Again, I'm just trying to draw a picture, right? This isn't the exact MIT blueprint, but it's just what it would look like. Someone wouldn't start at this size, they would work their way up. But we're just talking 8 contracts, 25 days to duration. If I'm not consistently getting out at 6, 7 days, I might go to 20 days duration. But that's what I'm trying to make about, and I put reasonable. Even though our plan might be 8 or 9 or 10%, I'm looking 5% when all is said and done with commissions and good trades, bad trades. I'm looking that this will contribute about $570 a week. A rut calendar, I'm looking for about a $4,100 calendar. And this is, I put 10 by 26 days, put it on every Wednesday. Many people do a 9-day. I'm just looking for 4 contracts, which would be about a $4,100 trade. If I'm looking at 5%, it'd be about $200 a week, right? And I'm looking at just selling a 10-day, buying a 26-day. At least my long option is about 14 days out from my short. Some people may do it a little differently and be in a monthly. And again, just trying to keep a schedule. The butterfly every Tuesday, the calendar every Wednesday. And again, you could substitute something for, it could be a double calendar, could be a double diagonal, could be a cash secured put, could be out of the money put butterfly, whatever. And then the third trade, then the SPX Iron Condor, put it on every Thursday. SPX Iron Condor, put it on every Thursday, expires the next week. Well, this would be a 16 days, right? So I went 16 days. So really I went 25 days, 10 days, and 16. Someone else might do, 9-day, 10-day, and a 20-day. So I didn't put them all 9-day, right? But the goal is I'm looking basically to be out, maybe a small overlap, but be out every week, close to every week. Obviously, on a 16-day, I should be able to get out every week. A 10-day, I'll get out every week. This is the only one that's going to be close, but at least I don't have all 7-day stuff, right? It's not bad. A 25, a 10-day, and a 16. So here, SPX Iron Condor, about $4,500, looking to make 5% or $225, 16 days out. Equidistant, want to get the thetas close to 0. Delta's close to 0, get the theta working. And I just went 50 points out of the money on the call side, 50 points out of the money on the put side. We're in a low vol environment. If the VIX went up, I'd probably just get more room either side, equidistant, to get that theta to get the deltas near 0. And this would be about 5 contracts, which would be $4,500, about 8 or 9 delta for the call and 16 to 17 delta for the put for an equidistant. On short-term trades, I like to get the deltas near 0. And again, so we're bringing in about 1,000 a week, right? 570 around. I think those are reasonable numbers. 570 for the butterfly, 205 for the calendar, 225 for the Iron Condor. It's about this, right? That's the plan, right? If I make 800, I'm happy. And again, I'm not just going 7-day stuff. So that I kind of like this configuration, right? Instead of doing a 4-day, a 9-day, and an 8-day, I'm doing a 10-day, a 25-day, and a 16. So, that's another twist at it, right? And so allocation, I'm putting about 11,400 capital in a 25-day butterfly, 8 contracts. I'm putting about $4,100 in a 10-day calendar, 4 contracts. So that would be put on Thursday. I think a lot of people look at a 9-day calendar, but I'm looking at 4 contracts. And then $4,500 in SPX Iron Condor, 5 contracts. So I'm looking to make about 5%. Now, the numbers, and again, I get it. The numbers we're talking, capital of 20 grand, goal of 5% a week. That's 1,000 a week. That's 4,000 a month. I know that's Columbia drug cartel money, right? Obviously, yields and options are higher than stock. The yields are going to be higher. I know there's risk involved, and I'm not painting a picture that this is the way to go, but I'm discussing there's pluses and minuses of these things. And some people drink the Kool-Aid that longer duration is the answer to all your success, and it's not. right? I think it's looking at both of them and just understanding. There's choices, right? A lot of people don't like short-term, and you don't have to do it. Again, I promote longer-term durations, but I think it's good to have this conversation today. And you can see the way I did it today, that's a little easier. You can get the duration out a little bit. I did 25 days on one trade, 16 on one, and 10 on another. So here all I'm doing is just kind of giving an example of each, right? When I throw out, I want to be careful here. When I throw out a number and say, I think 4 to 5% is reasonable, where am I getting that number from? Obviously, if I took a universe of people, right, if I said, okay, how many people in here have not traded short-term trades more than 10 weeks in a row? And I get all these hands up. And I say, okay, out of this group of people that have not traded these short-term trades and done well with them and worked with them for 10 weeks in a row, and they've all lost money, would 5% be reality in that thing? Of course not. So what I'm saying is I'm taking the universe of students that have been doing this stuff for a while, that have traded 25, 30 weeks in a row, that are using reasonable risk management, not losing much more than they make, and sticking with the strategy. Out of the people in the community who have become good craftsmen, who have done this stuff, is 4 to 5% a week unreasonable for that group of people? The answer will be unequivocally, no, it's not. It's a decent number, right? Now, if you talk to people that aren't doing it, have not done 10 or 15 weeks in a row, are not being consistent and haven't learned it, no. Anyways, here's an example of a 25-day SPX Butterfly. And again, this is intriguing whether or not we can get this off in 6-7 days, but I think at the very most 10, this would be the only one that would overlap. But I think if we got it down to 20 days, we could probably be out in a week. But again, you could see this was an $11,400 position, 8 contracts. It was a slight mango, 40 wide on the downside, 35 wide on the upside. You got nice theta. Now, if you look at the theta, let me ask you a question. The margin's 11 grand. If we're looking to be in the trade about 7 days, you could say, well, Dan, 7 days of, well, no, we said about 6%. 7 days of theta would be about $900, wouldn't it? 7 days of this, is that about right? 7 days of theta would be about 1,000, but the reality is this number is really bigger because I'm making the assumption that if I can get over 7 days, the theta would be, pretty good, but the theta is going to go up. This is the theta at the beginning of the trade. 2 days into the trade, 3 days into the trade, this number will be bigger. So I think there's a good chance you can get this off in 7 or 8 days. But again, it's the good theta, but that would be the butterfly, right? And you'd work your way up to it. But I think if somebody worked their way up to this, I think, it's a possibility. So that's a 25-day butterfly. And then you got a 10-day rut calendar. Instead of putting it on a Wednesday, you put it on a Tuesday. 4 contracts. Here I just did rut at the 1400 strike, keeping about, so I'm buying the March 17 expiration, selling the Feb 28 expiration. So you got at least a couple weeks between your long and your short. The debit is 960. So times 4 contracts, you'd have margin or risk of around 38.40. Here's your theta. Here's your long vega. Again, this is a 10-day trade. Anyways, comparing longer versus shorter duration trades, we talked about most of this. And in shorter duration trades, you can be in the less days in a trade versus longer duration. You're going to have more gamma or price risk in shorter term trades. That's the big negative. More capital and more volatility risk when you're in 60 to 70-day trades versus 7 to 15-day trades. Probably 5 times more capital. More adjustments and commissions. Again, I like to limit the adjustments in the shorter term trades. Bottom line, 5 times less capital and less days in trade and less adjustments and commissions makes a compelling argument for shorter duration trades. And again, I'm just trying to get people to think in terms of diversification. I am not on one side or the other. Anyways, all right, folks, have a nice day, and we will see you later. Thanks.